Coming out later in life can be a nerve-wracking yet exhilarating experience, from navigating intense feelings for a queer first love to imposter syndrome. We're going to cover it all, and to do it, we have two very special guests joining us today.
So our first guest is Eva Bloom, who you may recognize from our previous episode, The Queer and Trans Sex Ed You Deserved But Never Got. And Eva is a queer sex educator and public speaker who you can find on socials at What's My Body Doing. Thank you, Eva, for joining the show.
Thanks so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be back.
Our next guest is Ralph, who is a queer singer-songwriter here in Toronto, whose music you should absolutely stream if you're looking for a new sapphic pop diva. Ralph has recently come into her queerness and is here today to share her personal experiences and insight alongside Eva's invaluable theory and advice. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Eva, to ground this conversation, can you first explain the term queer late bloomers and what that really means?
So late bloomer is kind of a vague term and can mean a lot of different things to different people. When I talk about it, I usually say like, it took you a hot minute to realize you were queer. I feel like people also talk about missing milestones, like maybe you didn't go through your high school as your authentic self, maybe you didn't get to go through college as your authentic self, maybe you even like had a marriage where you went through not as your authentic self, and kind of that process of grief and reclamation later in life. If the term late bloomer like feels validating for that experience, then it is yours to use.
What's the average age span of late bloomer?
I would say like maybe late 20s and beyond that.
And Ralph, when did you come into enlightenment?
It's funny, as you were speaking, Eva, I was like thinking about it because my first hookup ever was with a girl when I was in grade 8. It was my first time getting drunk. It was her first time getting drunk. She was my best friend. We drank a bunch of my parents' random alcohol. They were out for the night. We just ended up like full blown making out on the bed. Tops came off. It was like heated. It wasn't like a kiss.
Yeah.
It was like, we're in it. I don't know if I was in love with her or if I was infatuated with her, but I was definitely very obsessed with her. So I think that there definitely was something more than just a friendship, obviously. However, the next morning when we woke up, she just pretended that she couldn't remember a thing. I mean, we were young and she came from religion and she stopped talking to me and I never spoke to her again. So my like queer awakening kind of got like crushed a little. I tucked that away, and then I have two brothers, and my older brother was, you know, he always had guys around, and I just became kind of the opposite, very guy obsessed. And in high school, it was, you know, my brother's friends were always around and they were like, it's hot, sister. And I was like, I love male attention. And I didn't really think about the other side of the coin. I was dating someone for quite a while and I was hooking up with women occasionally during that. And I would ask his permission. And I guess we'd never spoken about like what that meant. Because it's not like he was there. He wasn't in the room with us. I'd be like, can I go make out with this girl? Should have been assigned to him. But I like came out to him and I thought that he knew that I was queer because I'd been hooking up with women. And then I casually said to him, yeah, you know, I'm wondering if I should post about being bi. And he was like, whoa, what? And I was like, wait,
you're
what?
bi?
Yeah, he was shocked. And I actually, I felt kind of bad because I was like, I'd said it so casually and he was shocked. He was like, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought you knew that. To be fair, like I think there was, you know, issues in the relationship and he could sense that I was kind of like one foot out the door. We'd broken up a couple times. So I think he was like, oh great, another threat. But I tucked away that coming out announcement for another, I don't know, a couple of years.
Every time you like kept getting kind of like stomped on and suppressed, did you ever feel shame from like that first instance that you talked about or the second?
You know, I only this year was talking to my girlfriend about the makeout incident when I was young. And I had never really thought of it as like feeling shame or guilt. But I think that there's a lot of stuff connected to that I've never really acknowledged. I think it's like a small trauma where I kind of had this big thing. I felt like turned on. I felt connected. And then to have someone be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And to have no one to talk to about it because that was my best friend. I was just like, oh, I did something wrong. Oh, I took advantage. Oh, and then she never spoke to me again. I think I felt really guilty.
It's like a breakup with no closure too.
Yeah.
Which is really intense.
So I think that there was things that maybe internally were a little voice in my head that was like, you're not going to do that again. Don't do that again. That didn't go well.
Yeah, it was negative reinforcement.
Exactly. So I kind of pivoted and went completely the opposite direction, which brought its own traumas, of course. You know, dating like guys forever, ever.
It's like you're saying, it's a huge piece that a lot of people look at is like, do I just enjoy male validation or do I actually enjoy hooking up with men?
For sure.
Because I think just the way that our society socializes us, a lot of people who are AFAB don't really learn, I guess, to be the pursuer. And then like you don't get that same kind of validation all the time, which is like a bit of a roadblock.
Definitely. Initially, when we first started dating, me and my girlfriend, I'd be like, well, I'm so used to guys doing this and guys doing this. And she'd go, okay, but I don't really do that. So we're going to have to kind of figure it out. Who's the pursuer? Who's the initiator? initiator, who's the person who has the toolbox. Quite literally. It's me, in case you're wondering.
So like creating dynamics that exist outside of like a cis hetero predator prey. It's like, oh, this can actually exist on more of like an even playing field, or like we can create new ways of existing.
I think even us having this past year opened up our relationship, and I've explored my bisexuality too, and dating men from the perspective of a queer lens has been like really mind-boggling too, because I'm like, you don't have to be all of these things, and it actually takes away a lot of these like heteronormative standards from it. That relationship actually like feels a lot better than all of these past relationships where I felt like I was like needing to be in this box, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna show up as myself in the ways that I've taken all of these gender roles for the past like 6 years of our relationship out of ours. I'm like, I'm not gonna just throw those back on myself, you know?
I would say you came out hot, actually. You'd be like, can you handle this now? I'm full of knowledge. Like,
but honestly, that's amazing to like enter into a relationship being like, so I know myself really well. I know what my boundaries are. I know how to communicate, and I know how I want to be communicated with. If that works for you, great. If not, bye. That comes with years of being in, you know, a relationship that works for you to be able to like harness those.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only a few people who can handle that type of human, and like, there's really a way to weed people out, I would say.
Eva, what's the most common reasons, or maybe even narrow down to a single reason as to why somebody might experience that suppression of queerness and be a late bloomer?
A couple of things came up as you were like sharing your story. I feel like one of them is just like the minimization of women and like AFAB people's sexuality and like autonomy. The idea of you can just hook up with girls and it's not like a real thing that relates to our sexuality. Either it's like for fun or it's just hot, that doesn't equate to like being bi or like being queer. And so you don't integrate that into who you are. Versus I feel like this narrative for queer men is very much the opposite direction, maybe in a way that's
God,
also
it's like,
harmful.
So toxic. You do it once and that's who you are.
You are gay.
There's no
You
flexibility.
Which is also like not true. Like there are also bi men, there are fluid men. Like let's create expansiveness there. Just really like the lack of representation. I feel like I talk about that so much, especially for us growing up. Like the most common queer representations for like queer women were like Ellen and like Rosie O'Donnell. And oftentimes those women are portrayed in like a joke, like to be like the butt of the joke. We really didn't get any positive representation of being queer is like beautiful. Being queer is like sexy. Being queer is like you're a whole human being and you can like live and like have healthy relationships.
People take you seriously.
People can take you seriously.
Yeah, you can have a normal job. Yeah,
and like it's like not a big deal. So when you have no examples of what that can look like for you, you're like, well, I'm not Ellen. I'm not Rosie O'Donnell. Seeing yourself as like 13, being obsessed with your best friend. You're like, that doesn't map onto anything I'm seeing anywhere.
Especially, I feel like I still am like quite femme. Like I really loved like fashion, and I loved to like straighten my hair, and I was like blonde, and I had side bangs. I didn't look at those people and go, okay, that feels right for me. You know, I was looking at like Rachel from Friends and being like, well, that feels right for me. Dang, you know, she seems pretty sweet.
There are like a lot of femme movies and stuff, but all of that is so through the male gaze, where it doesn't feel like that's an authentic queer experience. Again, that feeds into the idea that it's like just a sexual thing.
Yeah, it's always just girls, best friends making out in tank tops and being like, oh my God, you know?
Yeah, and you're like, okay, I guess that's not a big deal then. I guess I just like to make out with my friends.
Yeah, because they never talk about it being anything more than just a kiss.
Or even as like a joke, like, haha, we made out in college, but
or for someone else.
Yeah.
If it's more than a kiss.
Yeah. If it's for me.
What if it's for me? I don't know.
And I feel something.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
We're tingling. Yeah. We're tingling.
Tingles are happening.
For sure.
I feel like for so long, like there really was this like angry lesbian stereotype, or that like there was something dirty or wrong about being like a queer woman. And I feel like it's only until very recently that we've seen positive representation.
Well, I think in my experience when I was growing up, my interpretation of seeing a lesbian or a queer woman was like, they are less of a woman now. That kept me from wanting to be curious. Because I was like, well, I don't want to be less of a woman. I was fed all of these narratives of what that means. And I'm still now like trying to unlearn it and like redefine what that means to me.
You'll notice a lot in the community, it's like a lot of femmes are always with masks, or like it's very rare that you're going to find like a femme-loving femme.
Mask on mask. I'm ready for the mask on mask.
Yeah, but that's a huge piece of it too, is like not seeing yourself in it. You don't see, I don't know if your friend in high school was also a femme as well.
Yeah, quite femme.
But yeah, but like,
and a lot of my crushes have been quite femme.
yeah, but you're not seeing any of those representations of like these like femme-loving femme relationships. It's actually so rare to see that.
Yeah.
And when you do, it's so under the male gaze.
I also wonder if because I was hooking up with people, but I wasn't even like, oh, I'm queer. I wasn't even thinking about like, okay, what are the quintessential queer dynamics? Okay, like femme and mask. Like I was just hooking up with whoever I was attracted to.
Whoever got the bits tingling.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't confined by the norm, you know.
I feel like that was it for me. Like I had a full queer threesome, like fully thought I was straight. Like it wasn't until I realized I had romantic feelings that I was like, oh, that is definitely queer. I can't like do the math in my brain to be like, oh, it's just sexual. That doesn't count.
Right. It's like a mental backflip you're trying to do. It's like, no, I still can be in this box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like sexual like doesn't count unless I develop feelings.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it's interesting that like you had a threesome with another woman, but you were like, I'm not queer. Like I
with two women.
Okay.
And you were like,
no dicks. This is not queer.
I am a heterosexual. I've been flirting with these people
ally.
beforehand. The mental gymnastics,
Yes,
the
for
way that we
sure.
minimize.
For sure.
I feel like too, I don't know, if you're listening at home, if you've had sexual experiences with other queer people that felt aligned, that you felt excited about, that counts. You're queer enough.
100%. I think
You're gay.
Not to give you an existential crisis whenever you're listening to this, but consider you're welcome in the club if you want to be in the club.
one thing I wanted to ask as well, we noticed that on your story, Eva, you posted a poll of like how people feel about the term queer late bloomer, and there was like mixed reviews. So I first wanted to ask you, Ralph, because like literally this whole podcast we're like, you're a queer late bloomer.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Well, it's funny you should ask because right before I came here, I was talking with my girlfriend and she was like, oh, queer late bloomer. Okay. Do you feel like that relates to you? And I was like, it kind of rubs me the same way as like baby gay, which I don't love either. Baby gay feels like a little patronizing, just personally. I don't love it for me personally because I came out publicly as queer recently, but I'd known personally and in my friend groups and even in my family, like it had been something that I was always kind of like, I like anybody, you know?
Everyone.
I don't know. I mean, I do. I think sometimes bi isn't even really, for me, that feels like too binary.
Yeah.
But I respect the term and I get it. And I do fall into it because I did start, living my truth as a queer person in my late 20s, early 30s. I think that, and I can only speak for myself, but it makes you feel like kind of, I don't know, embarrassed or something to be like a late bloomer. Like, it makes me feel like I'm like coming into my breast buds again.
Baby's first training bra.
But Eva, would you be able to kind of like recap what the results were on that poll, what other people were thinking about it, and how you feel about it too? Because you're doing lots of like workshops and calling people queer late bloomers. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it really surprised me how absolutely all over the place it was.
Yeah.
There were people being like, yeah, it feels infantilizing. It feels like it maybe diminishes my experience. There was a reply that was like, I can't be late. Like I'm on my own timing.
I love that.
I feel like everybody's experience is valid. And whether you know when you're 6 or you know like when you're 30 or 40, like it doesn't really matter. The point is that you know.
I know for myself, it felt very helpful to find community, especially coming out as a lesbian felt like a big jump to me, like especially over the pandemic and doing a lot of that like exploration and rethinking by myself to talk to other people to be like, oh, we're also like recontextualizing, we're thinking about compulsory heterosexuality together, and it helped me feel less alone. So yeah, I would say that would be some of the positives that people said too.
I mean, I think I can resonate with both, like being someone who would say I experienced that. It's like, yeah, I think you're never late. Like your experience is your experience, and I think like that's beautiful. But in comparison to other people, like I did find out later in life, and that does add to my experience. It's not something I would add to my like list of identity cards. Like I wouldn't be like, hi, I'm a queer late bloomer to everyone I'm meeting, but I'm like, in the context of this podcast.
I'm late.
Yeah.
She, her, late.
Yeah. But like in the context of this podcast or you running workshops, like it's somewhere people can meet others who have a similar experience. You just can't deny the fact that it's like some people know when they're 6. Like Carbon, you knew like when you were 6 kind of.
I wouldn't say I knew, but I had a hint.
An inkling.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking at some movie posters a little
retrospect.
Yeah.
In reality, I didn't know until like 19. Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for me,
that's still like not super early.
I had no effing clue though. Like I was watching porn,
Yeah.
only looking at the girl. I was like, ew. Anytime it would be like a close up on the guy, I'm like, Even like I like guys too, but I'm just like, I don't know. In my head, I'm like, no, this is super straight. I don't know. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm pretending I'm the girl. I'm like, no, you're thinking about fucking her.
You're looking at the things she's doing and you wish she was doing them to you.
Like, bro, why are you watching straight porn right now?
Yeah.
And I don't know, everyone like started coming out on my rugby team too, and then that's when I actually
rugby.
It's
And the clues are here.
And she played rugby.
So everybody was coming out of my rugby team, and I was like, why am I the only straight person on the team?
And the thing was though, it's like that's when I started realizing, and then I started seeing them dating each other, because that's the representation that I wasn't seeing. I was like, oh, two people who were previously friends and women are now dating and they're having a great time. And then I started like longing for that. And that's when I started realizing, but it was like a very painted experience of people being like, Em's the straight one. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay, I'm in this box. No one ever asked and was like, do you like girls too? It was like, no, you're our straight friend. And I'm like, okay, ally.
I feel like it's really hard when people put you in the box. It takes a lot of courage, especially if you're, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but like if you are in a hetero relationship to then be like, well, actually, I'm, you know what I mean? It's just, it happened to me a lot too.
I feel like it ties into the biphobia too, and like bi erasure as well, where it's like, yeah, I'm in this hetero presenting relationship and I wasn't like totally unhappy with it, but I didn't know that meant that I could be in both and enjoy both. Like it felt very binary to me. I'm like, I have to be gay or I have to be straight. People just kind of like assigned it to you too.
Based on, I guess, like the limited knowledge they had, you know, based on the fact that they were like, okay, so you're dating a guy, you're straight. And you were like, oh,
yeah, totally.
well, that's what that means.
And I think coming out as bi, if you are in a straight passing relationship, it means nothing to anybody.
Yes.
You're like, you're bi, but you're dating a guy, so you're straight. It doesn't matter.
It feels like you need receipts or proof.
Yes.
That's the thing too. It's like,
Look at all the things I've done, but
But look at my porn history. I swear, I promise.
When I was in LA a little while ago, I was trying to say this in a way that will not give anything away. I was in a room with a bunch of queer people, and a couple of them are in a very well-known band, and I respect them very much as people and as musicians. I was dating a guy, and they were all talking about being queer, and they were like, ugh, bi people. And they were like, bi celebrities always end up with a guy. They had no idea. Everyone thought I was straight, and I was not about to be like, actually.
You're talking about me, bitch.
No, but I remember I respected everyone in that room so much, and there were such strong queer representatives that to have them be like, you know, it's just such a shame that a lot of the women in media who come out as bi end up with guys. They kind of take the easy route where they get to, you know, have kids in the sort of standard way. They were like, it's just unfortunate. That stayed with me. Yeah, because I was like, you guys are such strong advocates for the queer community, and I really respect that. And I just feel like if you're saying it, then like, well, fuck me, you know?
In order for you to say something back to that, you had to be showing otherwise, and you weren't in that moment.
I had no receipts. I had nothing. I had, you know, made out with some gals, and I just felt like I could not use that.
Common sentiment, I think.
Yes.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I've even felt this way of like, it's such a shame that majority of bisexual women end up with guys because it's like the easier route.
Yeah.
I have felt that sentiment, and I'm guilty of it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of necessarily having that sentiment. I'm not even entirely sure where it comes from. Maybe it's like, what do you think?
I think it's
Actually, help me, therapy.
I feel like it's very much like I'm mad at the system. Like I'm mad at cis heteropatriarchy, which gives queer women and like bi women 5 billion movies about straight romance before it gives one movie about queer romance. I channel that feeling of I wish more bi people like got to experience the joys of queer intimacy and relationships if that's what they want. And I know that like the way for more bi people to experience that is to create more normalization, more representation, and to really celebrate all bi people in all of their journey, to even give the permission to like claim a queer identity at all.
That's the thing though. I mean, even tying back to your story, it's what I found, especially being in a queer presenting relationship for the past 5, almost 6 years now, is that it happens on both sides. There's a lot of pressure, I'd say, once you're locked in this relationship to be like, no, now I'm a lesbian. It's like, it's okay, I'm a lesbian. I'm one of you. I'm one of you
now.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, other people feel uncomfortable by it.
It feels like you're not like part of the community enough. One thing I realized too was like coming into my bisexuality this past like year is that it did like make a lot of my friends uncomfortable too. Like a lot of them were like, whoa, like I saw you as a lesbian and now I'm like really thrown off by it. And it's like, they love me. Like they were like, it's okay, like I'm getting over it. But it was like something I had to deal with in my head. And I'm like,
it's
like your inner struggle.
It's almost like a little betrayal or something where they're
That's
like,
what it felt like for them.
I feel that same pressure. It would feel really scary if ever theoretically speaking. We weren't together, and suddenly I was like, I'm actually dating a guy. I would get so spirally and anxious about people being like, imposter.
You know what it is, though, that I will say that's helped me get over it is that piece of like realizing like, no, this is still a queer relationship, and like making sure like my other partner knows that I'm like, this is queer, like, and he's also queer himself too, which is like a piece that I find also very comforting, was finding also like a queer man.
I was going to ask you if that was a part of what you seek in men.
It definitely 100%. That piece helped me where I'm like, no, and like standing firm in your own bisexuality too, and being like, I can be a queer community organizer, someone who's like making this content, and I'm like, I am bisexual and saying that. I feel like it like creates better representation rather than, I don't know, it actually like erases that representation of like, oh, someone who is a bisexual woman can end up in a relationship with a woman. You know what I mean? Which was like exactly what they were saying doesn't happen.
Yes.
But like if we didn't open up our relationship, I would just be like another number that they would probably call a lesbian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like those numbers do exist. I think we just like don't see them because we're erasing them.
I think it's too about like shifting your understanding of bisexuality from like who you're dating and like your external actions to like bisexuality and all queerness is like an intentional identity. Like, you are bringing your queer politic, your queer idea to like every single relationship you have. And like that's the same for all queer people. Like you can be a bi woman married to a man, and like you can like queer that dynamic. You can exist in a queer way politically in terms of advocacy. I don't know, in terms of like queer culture and fashion and style. I think it's so beautiful to like be a bi woman in a relationship with a man and existing in that like solidarity and like queering the world around us. Like I think that's so fucking sick.
And that's amazing for anybody listening to hear you say that. We get so in our heads about this imposter syndrome of, you know, am I queer enough? If you are and you feel those feelings, then that's all you need to know.
A huge part of the argument that I think is valid kind of against bisexuality, not against it, but just like
stepping up to the table.
the feelings of resentment of being like, you have the option to be in this very straight passing relationship. You have the option to like have kids in a very easy way, to walk through the world as like straight cis people and not be judged, not face the type of experiences that you would as like a masked lesbian, you know, when you're like walking through the world. And I think that's kind of like the obligation, I would say, that bisexual people, it's not an obligation, but I find it as an obligation personally, is like if you're wanting to exist in the community, it's like taking the good with the bad as well. If you are in this straight passing relationship, it's like finding ways to still like express your queerness, and like even if you don't have these receipts, still telling people, I think, is like an act of resistance.
There's like a lot of power in being like, I am going to go to this queer event because I am queer.
100%, because lesbians and gay men, like, you don't get to choose, and it's true, and like you really do have to be visible, you do have to walk in these spaces. That is the easy piece about bisexuality, but I'm interested to know your thoughts, Carmen.
True.
Hold that thought, because this podcast is proudly sponsored by Vizzy Hard Seltzer.
That's right. And the ones that we were drinking in this episode is from their new launch, which is Vizzy Hard Seltzer Max, now with 7% alcohol. And they have vibrant new flavors like papaya pineapple, dragon fruit mango, blueberry white peach, and passion fruit kiwi.
Love it. And they all taste super good. And as always, we recommend, if you are a hard seltzer drinker, that you support a brand that you know also supports the queer community. These past 7 months, we've been having a really incredible time exploring ethical non-monogamy in our own relationship, because we're dating.
And a huge catalyst for this change has genuinely been exploring things on Field. For those of you who don't know, Field is a dating app geared towards polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, and kink.
If this sounds like something you're interested in exploring, we definitely recommend downloading Field. That's F-E-E-L-D. And now back to the episode.
I have so many conflicting thoughts. I've been battling myself the whole time. I have feelings, but then I have reality and things I know to be true, and they conflict. I'll be very honest. Like, I've shared the sentiment of the feelings of betrayal. I have felt feelings like when Emily started dating men, as we opened up our relationship, I was kind of just like waiting for it to end. I was like, can you just get your like fix your kick out of the way, and then like, can we focus on women again? Because like that's my comfort zone, and like I don't know what to do here. I don't know, like I'm like, my whole world is being shaken up. I felt the feelings of betrayal, even though I know that not to be true. It still was a feeling that came up for me, and I had to really work on that and like work through it and be like, okay, this is who you are. It's not a phase. Similar to how when girls start dating other girls, it's like, it's not a phase. It's just your truth. It's your reality. And unconditional love means accepting every part of you, even the things that aren't convenient for me. It's a huge fear, I think, that a lot of lesbians share, that I don't want you to leave me for a man. Because for me specifically, that makes me feel inferior. Because the societal standard is that a man dates a woman. So So if you leave me for a man, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're like the other. You're like othered
Yeah.
in that moment.
And you're like, okay, I wasn't good enough.
I wasn't
Yeah.
worth
Yeah.
like the risk to.
Yeah, I wasn't worth the risk. I wasn't worth like you
Yeah.
being more visibly queer. I
Yeah.
wasn't worth, you know,
or the
like,
difficulties of being in
Yeah.
in a non-hetero relationship,
totally.
you know? Yeah.
And like with
Fair.
this person, now you can just like pass.
Yeah.
And then now you can have it easier and I won't.
That-
I know it not to be true, especially in our case.
Yeah.
Like Emily, like with fucking Queer Ladies podcast. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
her life is queer.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
she works so hard to fully like create space, be queer, be out, and like let everybody know. So it's like, why am I holding a grudge?
I think it's really powerful to talk about the different experiences of lesbians and bi people because I think fundamentally those are different experiences. And
Yeah.
the more we don't talk about it
sure.
and the more that we pretend that it's the same, I feel like it's easier for these resentments to come up as opposed to being like, there are different experiences within the queer community. We have different privileges. We have different things that are maybe challenging and we can still show each other solidarity even though we exist and move in these like different ways.
I don't like making generalizations, but literally every lesbian we know feels this way. Genuinely, I have not met a lesbian that doesn't feel like some sense of like insecurity in that way. But the interesting thing is like on the other end, men feel the same way too. When they're dating a bisexual, they're like scared that you're gonna leave them for a woman who knows your body better because they have the same body parts. Like it happens like on both sides all the time. It never feels like that doesn't exist.
There is a sense that bi people have privilege because
Right.
they can be in a queer relationship and they can kind of be a part of this amazing, gorgeous community. And then they can also at any moment go back to being in a
Code
straight
switch.
passing. If it's easier. So I think there's a sense, and I'm not saying that that's the reality, but I think that sometimes there's a sense of privilege that goes along with being bi and having the best of both worlds.
Hannah Montana.
Can I share like, I don't know, my perspective as a lesbian who doesn't hold
Yeah.
these
Yes,
like
please.
mixed
Thank
feelings?
you.
For me, I don't know, as like a non-binary person
Yeah.
and also like being interested in non-binary and trans people, it doesn't feel like that same like, oh, are you gonna go back to like men or women?
Yeah.
I'm like, we're all just like
Yeah.
in this together.
I definitely feel the same way. I think my perspective around relationships and like bodies as well, just being like, it actually doesn't matter to me what kind of genitals you have, any of that. I'm
You're
like,
just vibes.
I'm just attracted to
Yeah.
your essence, which I mean, like that might mean I'm pansexual.
In my understanding, pansexuality is an idea of attraction regardless of gender. Whether you're a man, woman, non-binary, that doesn't like opt you in or out, or I don't have like a preference in terms of gender.
Yeah.
Versus bisexuality, in my understanding, is attraction to multiple genders. So that can be men, women, non-binary people, where gender plays a role where you're like, I'm attracted to you, and part of that is because of your gender.
The more I've explored my own gender and have like gotten like more curious about being non-binary myself too, it's like I've realized that like bodies don't matter at all, and that is what has helped me unpack it.
I was just thinking about this as you were speaking, and I was like, I don't know if it's something to share or if it's just something that's in my brain. Right now, I actually feel like dating a woman has been so healing for me. And I'm actually so unattracted to men because I had so much physicality trauma and obligatory sex and physicality in my relationships with men. At least this is how my brain perceived physicality with a man a lot of the time. It was very like, I want this now. You should give it to me. And then I would. It really skewed my sense of sex. And do you want sex? Do you like sex? How do you say no if you don't want it? You know, because you feel obliged because that person will be mad if you don't do it. It's just been so amazing to kind of embrace my queerness and see what other types of relationships can exist and what other kind of sex can exist besides what I was used to, because it's so different.
That was a big piece for me too, like beyond just feeling like I wouldn't be accepted in the community. It was also like I had a lot of sexual trauma with men, feeling like you have to do certain things just for their pleasure, even though like you're not actually enjoying yourself. Going into like a woman loving woman relationship, I was like, whoa, we don't have to do any of the parts I don't like.
I mean, I can't speak for anybody, but like for me, it's like, I don't want you to do it if you don't want to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's insane. Then I'm not having fun.
Or if you were doing it and you could probably sense like, I don't think you want to be doing this, right? Because you're like emotionally intelligent and you're like, oh my God, I can sense that you aren't here right now.
That's the part though of first queering those other relationships too, because that has been a massive part of like healing my relationship to men, is realizing just because you have a dick and it's hard right now doesn't mean I have to do anything with it, you know? Because that was a huge fucking part of it. It feels like an obligation.
Yes. I would wake up with a boner against my back and I would go, oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, now I have to deal with this.
I have to deal with this.
But you don't.
Right?
Yeah.
So now when I think of sometimes like, when I wake up in the morning, I have like trauma where I'm like, ugh, I like arch my back to make sure nothing's touching it.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, I have like literally like
It's so
physical
true.
nightmares.
The nice thing is like you can find queer men that exist. There are men who are also like trauma informed too,
Yeah.
which is like the lovely thing that I found, because like I didn't see myself ever being in a relationship with a man until like I met someone who is respectful of all those things. It is like attentive as well, and I'm like, okay, both of these things exist in both relationships, and that can exist. And I think it's understanding consent, like what that looks like, stopping when like things don't feel good for yourself anymore, because like continuing doesn't feel nice.
No,
Yeah.
no,
doesn't
it
feel
feels a
good.
betrayal to your body, which
Yeah.
stays with you.
You take all of that information in, and then with your queer relationships, you're like, I never want this to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're not doing.
True.
So,
True.
And
Yeah.
with that, it feels like incredibly liberating and exciting. And I think that's what can make you think like, I'm a lesbian now, because like this is so drastically better.
Yeah.
But it's actually those weird parts of the relationship that were making it not good. And like that doesn't have to be tied to an AMAB person's body. You know what I mean? That also puts them in a box. That's how they were socialized, unfortunately. And a lot of men continue to be socialized and unfortunately do still do that,
For sure.
which is a challenge.
For sure.
I feel like for a lot of men, again, socially with what we've taught them that for them to feel intimacy, they have to like have sex. And that's not the only way to feel intimacy either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
exactly.
then it's weak to like experience sensuality and
Yes.
intimacy. Yeah.
Yes. I remember really trying to express to my ex that like I respond, like foreplay to me is like a genuine hug. It's not a hug with intention.
And foreplay also doesn't start in the bedroom. It's the way that you're treating
Oh
your
my
partner
God,
throughout the day,
yes.
your whole relationship. It's like that is
Make me
what's
coffee. I'll do stuff with you. You know? I want to.
yeah. So Eva, I'm wondering, we've kind of like meandered and discussed a lot of the different challenges that are experienced by late bloomers, but I'm wondering if there's any that we've missed that you'd be able to bring up.
Ooh, so many. I think I talked a little bit about like feeling alone. Maybe if you're a late bloomer and you don't surround yourself with queer people, and then you realize like, oh, I'm queer. You're like, my straight friends have no sense of relating to my experience. And a lot
Right.
of queer people who've maybe been in the community for a while also can't relate or understand your experience. And if you haven't already built up like a queer community around you before you come out, it can be like a really big life transition to be like, okay, like what does a queer life look like?
What would you suggest to late bloomers who are struggling with feeling alone and trying to find community? What are ways to kind of seek community and feel like less alone?
I created like a late bloomer support club basically for
that's
people
amazing.
who, because sometimes it can feel overwhelming to go into the queer community when you're like, I
Yeah.
just got here. So having spaces where you don't have to have all the answers. I also have the space online, which I feel like can be a lot less intimidating than like going
True.
in person.
Like people can meet online?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. This is good because I feel like if people ask me what you suggest, I'm going to be like, Eva.
I feel like there are queer groups for every hobby, something you already know that you enjoy and like love to be a part of. You can find that in like a chill way and find queer community. You don't have to like go clubbing. Like you can go to queer run club. You can go to like queer stitch club. Like
that's true.
They all
There's
exist.
something for everyone.
I'm wondering if you have advice for people who are feeling like they're not queer enough to come out right now.
I feel like we've woven so many affirmations throughout this, but realizing that you don't need receipts, that queerness is about your personal identity, not about having actions or evidence, knowing that like you will feel more grounded in your identity and more confident as time goes on. If you feel like I'm new here, like I've never seen any of the L Word, I've never watched any Drag Race, like the more time you spend in the queer community, the more you'll have a sense of what's going on, and it's okay to like give yourself permission to feel new and then feel more confident as time goes on.
This next section that I want to get into is really about managing our first queer experiences, and that's on like the romantic and the sexual side, because it can be overwhelming in so many different regards. But I find there's a real phenomenon that happens to folks who are newly exploring their queerness, where you may have a few lackluster experiences and like awkward first sexual experiences, but once you find someone who you have chemistry with, your obsession and attachment to them can be like very overwhelming. And I'm wondering, Eva, if you've like seen or experienced this in the people you've worked with or in your own life, and like why you believe this happens.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced this for real. And I think it really ties back to something you said about like when you're moving from like a community of just straight people into maybe feeling alone and really like looking for queer connection. Oftentimes part of that like initial queer connection is maybe finding a romantic partner. And when that is the only, or maybe out of the few queer people in your life who truly gets you and makes you feel seen on like that deeper level, in that moment where you're so longing for validation and community, it's so easy for that to take on a real deeper intensity where you're like, I need this person so that I feel seen and that I feel safe. And it can create kind of like a power imbalance. And there are some people out here who will use that to manipulate you or to like take advantage of you.
I think too, it can be such an exciting experience to like
Yeah.
finally get to do this thing that you've been dreaming about for so long. And
Yeah.
then finally also it's like connecting to, it's like you find someone you have chemistry with
Yeah.
and you've wanted to do it forever. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is mind blowing. But then it does make you ignore red flags in a relationship. I'd say that about some past relationships I've had.
Ditto.
Where it's like that person gave you your sexual awakening in some
Yeah.
ways. It's about reframing that. Like some things I would want to go back and like tell that person, because it kind of goes to the point when that breakup's happening, you're like, I'm gonna fucking kill myself, because you're like, you are everything to me. Like you're my
Yeah.
awakening. You're the person who helps me like signal that I'm queer.
Yeah.
It's like it's so
Yeah.
much is tied to that.
Yeah.
But what's an important thing that you said is like maintaining your sense of self throughout that relationship and continuing
Yeah.
to build your queerness on your own.
I think, okay, I'll end it with like a warning note.
I was gonna give the people a warning.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, your first woman on woman or sapphic experience, sapphic relationship or love will feel so intense. You gotta like remember to keep checking in on yourself. Am I experiencing any toxicity? Am I ignoring red flags? Are boundaries being crossed? Am I obsessing a little bit too much? Am I too attached? When this person does this thing or has this emotional reaction, does my entire emotional reaction and like inner
Yeah.
self like change because I'm like so obsessed with this person? Because I have experienced that for sure. And it rocks your entire world, especially when you allow that to happen without checking anything.
Yeah.
And then you break up and then you're like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
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 So-
I think it's the check into like, are you constantly scared of losing them? You shouldn't feel like your whole world is
Yeah.
going to end if you lose that
Yeah.
person.
I think like checking in with friends too. Again, it can be such an isolating time where you're like, do I have queer friends that like I can be really real with? And like if you've just come out, you don't want to tell somebody like a negative queer experience that you're having, because then they might be like, well, maybe not. You're not
True,
queer.
true.
Maybe like you should break up. I wish like in those experiences that I had been really real with friends about the ways that things had been
Yeah.
toxic or the ways that things have been hurtful.
A lot of the time you don't want like your friends to get a bad impression of this person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if at the time I was telling my friends, oh, this person did this, that's how they reacted to a fight, someone would be like, that sounds abusive.
Yeah.
You know? That sounds
Yeah.
emotionally abusive.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it took for me to like take so many months to then be like,
Yeah.
okay, so here's what's really happening. And then be
Yeah.
like, baby girl,
Holy
we
shit.
gotta get you out of there.
Plug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm wondering what your like first queer love experience has been like, is Jamie your first queer love?
Yeah, for sure.
How do you feel in your relationship now, this being your first queer love that you're currently experiencing? Do you think maybe like age comes into play too? Like I think you have a strong sense of self rather than I was probably like 20.
Yeah.
You don't really have your sense of self at that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
say your experience.
Because I spent my entire life single and then kind of casually dating and dating so many different types of people and like really getting to know myself throughout that. I think entering this relationship with Jamie, I know what my non-negotiables are. I made a list with my friend a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I know what my boundaries are. I know how to communicate. I know like my downfalls and I can express those to people. You know, when I see myself doing something, I can be like, see myself doing it. I'm really sorry. This is my tendency to do this and this is why. And I think that just helps make for a strong relationship.
There's the other side of this experience that we were talking about where your first one, it's like built up and then it ends up being lackluster and you're like, am I gay?
Yeah.
Do I even like this?
Yeah.
And you're questioning
Yeah.
yourself. Eva, how do we balance this? Like, how do you manage your expectations? Because like we said in the beginning, like not every person you're gonna have chemistry with.
That's exactly what it is for me. Like
Yeah.
the first time I hooked up with my roommate, classic.
Yeah.
Love to see it. It was a similar experience where
Yeah,
like
that's messy.
Yeah.
Oh.
it would have been messy
Yeah.
for better for worse. She came down the night before and was like, actually, I think I'm gonna get back together with my boyfriend. And like, that was fun, but like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool.
You're like, so it was that good, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I really blew your mind. I did feel the thing where I was like, if I was queer, it would have been like this life-changing experience. I'm like, no, it just felt like having casual sex. Like I've had casual sex, like it was fun,
Yeah.
like a cute little time, but I don't feel romantic attraction to you. But that doesn't mean I'm not queer.
Yeah. It's important to check in with yourself. Think back to your past hookup experiences.
Yeah.
Were they all amazing?
No.
A lot of them were awkward and
You
bad.
like lose perspective of the fact that like in your past you'd kiss people and been like, oh,
Yeah.
I hated
Because, like, oh, that was really
or
bad.
nothing, or like you know when you like someone and you're like so excited, and then when you finally hook up
It's
and
nothing's there.
you're like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like that's just people,
Yeah.
you know?
Like our bodies just didn't mesh.
Yeah,
The
it was
puzzle pieces aren't
chemistry.
fitting.
Also, I will say this is an okay story to tell because me
Yeah.
and Jamie joke about it. But
Yeah.
when me and Jamie like first met on Hinge, we talked for so long, classic sending like voice notes every
Yeah.
night, so many voice notes. We messaged for so long.
Damn, still on the app too.
On
You
the app,
didn't get
then
off
we
the app.
transitioned to Instagram,
Okay.
and also I saw that
It's not
she
the number yet.
saw that she followed me already and had sent
Yeah.
me a message like 6 months prior, and I was like, "So you do know who I am?" And she was like, "To be fair, I know one song."
What was was the message?
It was about, I was looking for a therapist.
She's like, here's a
okay.
rec.
And she was like, here's a rec. So it was very normal.
okay.
But point being, we talked for so long. And then when we finally met up, I was going to LA for 6 weeks. So we like hooked up once or twice. And then I went to LA and we like would FaceTime all the time and talk all the time. And I wasn't hooking up with anyone or dating at all in LA. I felt like emotionally tied to her. So she was going to see her grandma in Vancouver. And she was like, when you're coming back from LA, instead of going to Toronto, do you want to meet me in Vancouver? And like, we can have like 2 days with my grandma.
So gay.
So gay.
I know. And I love family. So I was like, hell yeah. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get to Vancouver. It's going to be makeouts. It's going to be clothes off. So I get to the airport and she comes to pick me up and it is an awkward, quick hug. And I was like, oh, hello? Like, nice to see you.
Yeah.
It just felt awkward.
The nerves had
and
built it
then,
up.
yes. And then like first night in the hotel room, the sexy connect is like not really there. So we're like trying to kiss and it's not really working. And then the next night we do not kiss at all. Cause in my mind, I'm like, we're friends. Like,
Yikes.
you know, because that's the thing. I'm also so used to like having best girlfriends that I was like, that's what we are. We hooked up in the past.
Yeah.
That was good, but maybe we talked too much.
Yeah.
And now we're just girlfriends and neither of us can imagine each other naked. So that weekend was not good.
How'd you recover it?
How'd you recover?
I invited her to my farmhouse with my family up
More
north.
family. You have
And
a
she
trend.
said, yes, let's go, but can we go to Aurora so you can meet my family because I have to go for my... So in my mind, I was also like, I think this is the conversation that we're going to have where we like decide to be friends. But on the way there, we stopped at her family gathering and then went to my farm with my parents. And then we were sharing a bed. And when we turned out the
Only
lights,
one
it was
bed?
like one bed. When we
Just one.
and my dad... when the lights go out,
buildup
it's
is
like
sexy.
I know it's like pitch dark. And I remember saying to her, "Can you see my hand in front of your face?" And she's like, "No." And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "No, not at all." I think in the dark we had the courage to have this awkward conversation where I was like, "I really like you, but I think maybe you think it's friend." And she was like, "Oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? I think you're so hot. That is crazy that you don't think I'm attracted to you." She was like, "I don't think you're attracted to me." And I was like, "Wait, no, what? Like, no." And then we hooked up, and that was like my first like hookup.
Yeah.
I think we'd had heated makeouts before I'd left for LA, but that was like in the dark, this like proper hookup. And it was so nice because I'd gone into it being like, oh, there's no chemistry.
Yeah.
And then like friggin' flip it around and we're like hooking up with my parents in the room next to us, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just to maintain that sometimes just wires get crossed.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to like have the courageous conversation and work through it. And then sometimes it is maybe just a friend vibe.
Yeah. My question for Eva, another one for you, is so there's maybe some people who are listening to this who have like zero sexual experience with like same-sex partners. And what would your advice be for that? Because that is nerve-wracking.
I would say that like you know more than you think you do. Like it seems like this mystical, like, oh, it's gonna be so different. Like I'm not gonna know, but like making out feels similar to no
Grinding
matter
feels
gender.
the same.
Grinding feels the same. You maybe have boobs. The other person maybe has boobs. Somewhere to start.
The knee thing, if you don't know what it is,
Yes.
just try putting parts in different places.
The knee thing, let's just say a lot can come from a knee, you know?
A lot.
Yes.
that's
Yes,
all
have
we'll
somebody
say.
grind against your knees. It's good pressure. But yeah, like there's no pressure to like take clothes off your first time. It's also okay to like ask somebody what feels good. Like it is hot to be like, what would make you feel really good right
What do
now?
you like?
What do you
Yeah, what turns you on?
Yeah.
And it's okay for it not to be perfect. It's okay for there to be like laughters. I feel like with sapphic intimacy, there's like so much more allowance for like, let's take snack breaks. Let's like have a little giggle.
Yeah, or like the cat is suddenly in the room and you're like, oh my God, we gotta move the cat. The moment isn't lost.
Yeah.
There's an interruption.
Moving the cat is like the gayest thing I've ever heard.
It is
That's, like, fully,
constant.
So this episode's coming out around Pride season, and I think especially with people who are new to coming out, there can be a lot of pressure around Pride. It's like all of these fears start coming up. So Eva, how do we navigate our first Prides?
I think, releasing expectations. There can be this need to be like, I need to check off and like do everything. But this is not going to be your last Pride. And it's not going to be your last chance to be gay throughout the year.
That's a threat. It is a threat. Maybe it's gonna be your last
Em's
Pride.
gonna make sure it's your last Pride. But yeah, like you're gonna have more fun if you like release yourself of this expectation and just like let yourself go with the flow a little bit. There are low key events that you can go to.
There's a big park picnic hang
park
at Christy
picnic.
Pitts. It's really cash. Great place to meet people in the community too. You know, on what you were saying, like there's always going to be more prides, and it doesn't mean that you're not queer enough just because you don't want to go to Church Street at 1 a.m. You know, like you can be queer and you can go to bed at 10 during
Also-
Pride.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Church Street at 1 a.m. is overwhelming.
Absolutely.
You don't need to be there at all.
Exactly.
I will also say that when it comes to like your first Pride, especially, I had built it up in my head, especially if you're from out of town,
Yeah.
that you're gonna get into the city and it's gonna be the most magical queer experience of your entire life, and your life is gonna change, and you're gonna enter this metamorphosis and enlightenment, and you're like, wow, I'll never be the same.
Did that happen?
No.
Like, did it feel like lackluster? Like, were you
I
like,
was like, this was fine.
Yeah.
Queer people for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I had built it up in my head that I was like, I was gonna enter and people were gonna like surround me.
Wow.
They were gonna flock to me and they're like, here's my number. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and I was like, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm ready. My pockets are empty and ready for your numbers.
Wow.
Like, I had seen somebody's story of like, how did I end up with like all these girls' numbers in my pockets? Like, they wrote their number down on a piece of paper and put it in her pocket. And she didn't know that was happening. And I was like, this is gonna happen to me. This is me.
Yeah.
That's like, so I was like, pockets. And then I would go home and I'd be like, they're empty. Fuck. Like, what is it?
your expectation of Pride was really specific?
Yeah,
that's so
specific. But like when you hear it, when all you hear is other people's stories and they're very specific stories, I'm like, that's me.
I will say, like, my experience of Pride for the first few times and still to this day is like still really great. Like, I still love being surrounded by community. Like, that's still a beautiful thing. Being around people that you know are all at least allies or people who are queer. It's so beautiful, and like dancing together, doing all of these things. That is really nice. As long as you're not putting expectations of like hooking up with people. Like, you don't know if you're gonna meet people, but like you will like experience beautiful human queer connection, you know, which is like a really nice part of going to Pride. And I mean, I think that's a great place for us to end this off. But what I wanted to ask you both is if you have anything on the go that you want to plug to our listeners.
I am playing Pride in Cape Breton in June. It's called Ingo Pride, and I'm playing with Rev and Ria May and Lemon. We're all
Awesome.
friends that I've toured with or been on Drag Race with. And then I'm also playing another Pride, which has not been announced, so I guess I can't say what it is. It's not Toronto, I'll say that. That application got denied. But it is another city in Canada that may or may not be the capital. You know, I've been writing a TV show for the last year.
Whoa.
I directed and edited and produced the last 3 videos that I did, and have been doing more creative direction for other people in songwriting. So yeah, I'm excited to continue to expand as an artist and like feel confident in being like, I can do all of these things, you know?
Oh yeah.
Eva, what do you have to plug for us?
I talked a little bit about the Late Bloomers Club before. That is ongoing. It's called the Fuck Compet Support Club. We meet monthly on Zoom and have an amazing Discord. So if you want kind of support over Pride, to be like baby's first Pride, any advice, or just like talk to people who get it, that is available. I also am running something called Spicy Sapphic Summer, which is about like building confidence around queer dating. It'll probably be in its last couple sessions by the time this comes out, but it will be available to buy as a little package. So if you want some queer sex ed and dating, how to flirt with queer babes, that'll be there.
Oof, I mean, we could all use that.
Yeah.
All use that.
We're all learning.
Yeah.
So that's everything that we have for you today. And if you want to dive deeper into more comprehensive sex ed, we have a lovely episode with Eva Bloom. That will be the first link in the description, or you can click the video on the left. And if you like the podcast and you want to help us out, we would really love for you to leave us a review, because it really does help the podcast out and we love reading them. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because it really does help the podcast out. That's everything that we got. And until next time, peace.